Amara pushed through a tangle of vines, their emerald tendrils clinging to her cloak. Sunlight, fractured by crumbling archways, painted the ruined city of Elyndor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. She gripped the hilt of her sword, its familiarity a comfort in the unsettling stillness. Behind her, she heard the crunch of gravel, the only sound breaking the silence of the ruined city. Kaelen. His presence was a shadow she couldn't shake, a constant reminder of the mission they were forced to share. She didn't trust him. His silence, the way his hand hovered near the dagger at his belt, spoke volumes. They reached a plaza, once grand, now choked with weeds and rubble. A shattered fountain stood at its center, its waters long dry. "We should choose a direction." Kaelen's voice, low and rough, startled her. "I am perfectly capable of making my own decisions," Amara retorted, her voice sharp. She met his gaze, a challenge in her eyes. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, not with him, not after what had happened. Kaelen said nothing, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. He simply shrugged, his gaze sweeping the ruins around them. "Suit yourself," he muttered, turning away from her. He started towards a crumbling archway, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. Amara watched him go, her fingers tightening further on her sword. His silence was more unnerving than any argument. It was a wall, built of stone and suspicion, keeping her at bay. And she knew, with a sinking certainty, that she was just as guilty of building her own. "We should make camp soon." Kaelen's voice, breaking the silence, startled her. He stood a short distance away, leaning against a crumbling wall, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Agreed," she finally replied, her voice echoing strangely in the stillness. He nodded, pushing himself away from the wall. "There's a stream a little further on," he said, gesturing with his chin. "We can refill our water skin." He paused, then added, "and maybe find somewhere sheltered for the night." Amara nodded, surprised by his uncharacteristic attempt at conversation. She followed him as he moved towards the stream, the silence between them no longer as heavy as before. It was a small thing, a simple exchange of words, but it felt like a bridge across a chasm. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, signaling the end of another day filled with trials and tribulations. They made camp near the stream, the sound of rushing water a soothing counterpoint to the silence of the ruins, offering a momentary respite from their journey. A fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows on the crumbling walls around them, creating an almost magical atmosphere in the midst of desolation. Amara watched the flames, her mind replaying the events of the day. Kaelen had surprised her. He had been different, more open, more human. The guarded silence had given way to moments of conversation, brief glimpses into the man behind the walls he had so carefully erected, revealing a depth she hadn't expected. She glanced at him, sitting across the fire, his face illuminated by the flickering flames, shadows playing across his features. He was cleaning his dagger, his movements precise and economical, a ritual that seemed to calm him. He caught her gaze, and for a moment their eyes met across the fire, a silent understanding passing between them. The usual suspicion in his gaze was softened by something else, something akin to understanding, perhaps even trust. A sudden screech split the night, followed by the flapping of wings, shattering the fragile peace of the moment. Amara was on her feet instantly, her hand instinctively reaching for her sword, ready to face whatever threat loomed in the darkness. A dark shape swooped low overhead, its eyes glowing red in the firelight, a menacing presence that promised danger. The wraiths attacked in waves, their shrieks echoing through the ruins, a haunting symphony of despair. Amara fought with a ferocity born of desperation, her sword flashing in the moonlight, each swing a testament to her will to survive. Kaelen was a whirlwind of motion beside her, his dagger a blur as he dispatched one wraith after another, his movements precise and deadly. They fought back to back, their movements synchronized, their trust in each other growing with each passing moment, an unspoken bond forming in the chaos. The air crackled with magic, the stench of ozone mixing with the dust and decay, creating an almost tangible aura of power and dread. Amara felt a surge of exhilaration, her fear momentarily forgotten in the heat of battle, replaced by a fierce joy. As quickly as it began, the attack ended, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The remaining wraiths, sensing defeat, melted back into the shadows, their shrieks fading into the night, leaving only the echoes of their terror. Amara lowered her sword, her chest heaving, her body trembling with exertion, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. She glanced at Kaelen, who stood a short distance away, his breathing ragged, his dagger dripping with a viscous black fluid, a grim reminder of their ordeal. "They're gone," he said, his voice hoarse, the words carrying a mix of relief and exhaustion. He sheathed his dagger, his gaze meeting hers. "For now," he added, the unspoken threat of future battles hanging in the air. Amara nodded, exhaustion washing over her, the weight of their struggle settling heavily on her shoulders. She leaned against a crumbling wall, suddenly aware of the weight of her pack, the ache in her muscles, and the enormity of what they had just faced. The adrenaline that had fueled her through the fight was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness, a reminder of the cost of survival. Echoes of empathy. Kaelen listened in silence, his gaze never leaving her face, absorbing every word she said. He didn't interrupt, didn't judge, allowing her to pour out her heart. He simply listened, his expression unreadable in the flickering firelight, a silent guardian of her secrets. When she was finished, he remained silent for a long moment, the only sound the crackling of the fire and the distant hoot of an owl, creating a serene yet poignant atmosphere. "I understand," he finally said, his voice low and rough, filled with the depth of emotion. "More than you know." He hesitated, then began to speak, his words slow and measured, as if each one carried the weight of his past. He told her of his own past, of the shadows that haunted him, the mistakes that had shaped his life, and the lessons he had learned along the way. He spoke of loss, of regret, of the longing for redemption that burned within him, a fire that never seemed to die. As he spoke, Amara felt a weight lifting from her chest, a sense of relief she hadn't realized she had been carrying, as if his words were a balm to her soul. For the first time since they had met, she saw him not as an adversary, but as a fellow traveler, burdened by his own past, seeking solace in the ruins of a shattered world, just like her. They talked until the fire burned low, their words weaving a tapestry of shared pain and understanding, creating a bond that neither had anticipated. The silence that descended between them when they finally fell silent was no longer a barrier, but a bridge, connecting them in a way neither had thought possible, a silent testament to their newfound understanding. A shared purpose. The days that followed were a blur of exploration and danger. They ventured deeper into the ruins, following the whispers of magic that led them ever closer to their goal. They faced treacherous traps, battled monstrous creatures, and deciphered ancient riddles, their teamwork becoming more seamless with each passing challenge. Amara found herself relying on Kaelen's knowledge of ancient lore and his uncanny ability to track their prey. He, in turn, seemed to trust her instincts and her skill with a blade. They argued less, their disagreements now more akin to spirited debates than outright conflicts. They shared stories, laughter, and the burden of their pasts, their bond deepening with each passing day. One evening, as they huddled around a fire, exhausted but exhilarated after a particularly harrowing encounter with a pack of shadow wolves, Kaelen turned to Amara, a rare smile touching his lips. "We make a good team, you know," he said, his voice tinged with amusement. The strength of bonds. The path to their goal was fraught with peril. They faced their greatest challenge yet in the heart of Elyndor's ruined temple, a place where the veil between worlds was thin, where shadows danced and whispers promised forgotten power. They stood before a massive, intricately carved door, its surface etched with symbols that pulsed with an eerie green light. The air crackled with magic, thick and oppressive, making it difficult to breathe. "This is it," Kaelen said, his voice tight with tension. "The entrance to the Chamber of Echoes." Amara nodded, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword. She could feel the power emanating from the chamber beyond the door, a heady mix of magic and danger. She glanced at Kaelen, his face illuminated by the eerie green light, his expression determined. "Ready?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Whispers of hope. The Chamber of Echoes was a place of swirling colors and disorienting echoes where past, Present and future seemed to blend together. Amara and Kaelen fought their way through illusions and battled manifestations of their deepest fears. Their bond tested to its limits, but through it all they held on to each other, their trust and camaraderie their only anchor in the chaos. They fought back to back, their movements synchronized, their connection forged in the fires of shared experience. And in the end, they emerged from the chamber, battered but unbroken, their goal within reach. They stood on a balcony overlooking the ruined city, the first rays of dawn painting the sky in hues of hope and renewal. Below them, Elyndor lay bathed in the golden light, its shattered beauty a testament to the enduring power of magic. "We did it," Amara said, her voice filled with awe. She turned to Kaelen, a genuine smile gracing her lips. "We actually did it!" Kaelen returned her smile, his eyes reflecting the golden light of dawn.